George just said, don't worry about things that aren't there. I've cleaned your wellies for you. George and Billy laughed at this. Well, what's so amusing? Mummy, Wellington boots are supposed to be all muddy. You both know full and well what I meant. Of course, George had to take it further. He stood up, winking at Billy, put on a fake voice. Oh, look, our lovely clean wellies. Mustn't get them muddy. Oh, no, look at that. All that mud. Then pretended to daintily tippy-toe across the mud. It reminded Billy of Fred Flintstone. All right, that's enough. Billy, don't encourage him. Billy was laughing so hard. George sat down, looked at Betty's rather austere glare. He winked at her, smiling. Come on, lass. She tutted, raised her eyes, and smiled. Excuse me, Daddy, will Chuck be at the market? Not sure, son. He doesn't much care for it any more. Doesn't like all the hierarchy rubbish. He might well be there for Mr. Watkins. What's that, George? Well, there's huge farms, then there's the small holdings down to our small family farms. They look down on us, outbid us. It's all sorts of shenanigans going on. It's unfair to our smaller farms. I think that's why old Mr. Watkins is hanging up his hat, fed up with the bureaucracy. Dad, do you remember when Chuck had that fight? Betty shot a look at George. Oh, it was a Saturday sale. Billy didn't miss school. Ah, okay. It was so cool. Chuck had him on the floor and George looked at Billy, willing him, please stop. Billy sensed at that moment he'd messed up and stopped talking. And, Betty said, Billy had to think on his feet. And, this breakfast is delicious, Mummy. Thank you, smiling awkwardly. George? Betty looked at her husband. He knew full well this wouldn't rest until she'd heard every detail. It was nothing. It wasn't a big fight. One of the farmers knew money. You know the type. Hundreds of acres. He'd heard there was going to be some prime Lincoln Reds. He travelled 2 counties to buy some. Old Mr. Potts, you know. Yes, you do. You bumped into his wife in Sainsbury's about 3 weeks ago. You told me she looked really well. Oh, yes, I know. They've got 10 acres up on Turnpike. Yes. Well, he was bidding. He only wanted 10 red Lincolns. He'd already spent over 1,000 on a new tractor. £32 on a ton of wheat. His budget wouldn't stretch. Anyway, old Fancy Pants, 2 counties away, decided he was going to go behind Mr. Potts' back. He went to the organisers and explained he wanted the whole lot of Lincoln Reds and was splashing in the cash. Well, Chuck overheard this and he just let the farmer know that wasn't how we did business here, that's all. Yeah, he had him on the floor and, Billy, that's quite enough at the table. May I go and play for a while, please, if I'm back for 10? Aye, lad. Billy, don't get mucky, please. I don't want the Queen thinking I've raised a ruffian. But that made no sense. 1, Mummy's not going, and 2, the Queen doesn't even know us. George knew what Billy was thinking. He just said, run along, son. He's happy, isn't he, George? Aye, lass, he is. Billy went straight to Chuck's with a carrot. Mummy had allowed him to take the odd carrot from the larder. He wanted to see Ashley, Chuck's donkey. Billy didn't know anyone else who had a donkey except for Chuck. Now Chuck had 3 large dogs, Stretchy, Basil and Tyler. They were great guard dogs. However, they knew Billy and greeted him with a fervour. Billy loved them equally. He sat down. They excitedly jumped backwards and forwards in between excited licks. Their young friend had tears in his eyes. I've got them. Tyler licked his salty tears. Billy laughed. I'm going to miss you. Stretchy whispered, he knows we're going. They laid down beside him, except Tyler, who sat facing him, staring into his eyes. Billy was sure they understood. Tyler gently placed his paw on his shoulder. It was a beautiful moment. Just then Chuck came out. Hello, lad. The 3 dogs ran to their master. May I see Ashley, please? Of course, Billy. Thank you. He ran over to the paddock. Chuck joined him. Billy looked up to his tall friend. To Billy, Chuck was a hero. He reminded him of a cowboy he'd seen a lot watching westerns with Daddy. John Wayne. Dad liked him, said he was a man of scruples. Billy thought that's just how he wanted to be, make his dad proud. Yes, when I want to grow up like my friend. For my friend Chuck. There was an awkward silence. What's got you, lad? Billy kicked at the earth, looking very sombre. Nothing? I know. Chuck laid his hand on Billy's shoulder. You can visit, lad, if you're right with your parents. There'll be jobs, you know. I know. Chuck's phone started ringing from the house. He ran to answer it. Billy strolled over to the house after saying goodbye to Ashley. Chuck had left the back door open, leading into the kitchen. Billy heard Chuck on the phone. His voice was raised. I did not order the 2-box. I have here written down Bedford horse box, single. Why would I order a double when I have 1 donkey? Explain that, please. Oh dear, Chuck sounded very cross. A realization came to Billy. If Chuck was already making arrangements for the horse box, then he must be going quite soon. Billy had thought it would be months. As he looked into the kitchen, he suddenly noticed the packing boxes. He felt sick. He wanted to scream. He loved his friend, but he felt like he wanted to scream. They'd all betrayed him. The 3 grown-ups, most important in his life, had lied to him. Billy looked down. A cold, wet nose nuzzled into the palm of his hand. It was stretchy. Well, I will have to then. I'm telling you now I'm not happy about this, and I will be speaking to your boss. What? I understand that's all you have now, son, but when I originally ordered, it was confirmed. It was confirmed a single. Listen, I can't answer what's happened. That's your job. Right, okay. Chuck slammed the phone down. Incompetence. Ah, Billy, lads. Oh, Chuck realised he'd seen the boxes. Listen, lad, we didn't know when best to tell you. When? Billy shouted. 2 weeks, Billy. His eyes smarted. I wanted you to come to the market today. I don't want to see you ever again. Or Mum and Dad. Billy ran off, sobbing. Chuck called after him, but he didn't stop. Matilda jumped on the table, looked at Chuck, hissed at him, put her chin up in the air and walked away. Great, now the cat was mad. He looked for solace in his 3 boys. However, the 3 dogs looked at Chuck, very disappointed, sad faces, turned, and all 3 walked out the door. It's not my fault. I told you we were moving. Get away from the rat race. Beautiful countryside, fresh air. Oh, come on. Great, just great. Now my pets are against me. Billy was sat under a tree. He had a bad headache from all the crying. He was feeling guilty for screaming. He didn't mean it, but he was hurt. Mummy promised him she wouldn't lie to him ever again. Not since his cat was knocked down and they'd got a replacement, thinking he wouldn't notice. Why do grown-ups tell us that we're not to lie or have secrets, but they can? It's not fair. A collie came running up, vigorously wagging its tail. Oh, hello, Skip. Skip licked all round his face. Skip, I'm not in the mood. Skip, Skippy. Oh, no. It was Skippy's mistress, Mrs. Foster. Billy was not in the mood for pleasantries, but he knew he must not be rude. Oh, there you are, Skip. I see why you ran up here now. Hello, Billy. Mrs. Foster. Oh, what's bothering you, lads? Nothing. He half smiled. Your ma and pa are looking for you. Be home at 10, you said. Oh, no. What's the time, please, Mrs. Foster? She looked at her watch. 20 minutes past. Oh, no, I've got to go. Bye, Mrs. Foster. Bye, Skip.